You know, just a few days ago, we were all so excited because Dana White announced UFC 317. He announced the return of Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis, and we were riding high as MMA fans. Like, it felt like things were finally getting back on track, especially in what we all thought was going to be a huge year here in 2025. To now, it feels like as fight fans, it's like, can it get any worse than some of the things that we've seen? And it's gotten so bad at times that we're just like, nah, man, we've seen it all as fight fans. I'm here to tell you in this video that we are about to witness not just the most undeserved and pathetic title shot in UFC history, but it just might be the most pathetic and undeserved title shot in the history of combat sports, period, is what we are about to witness at UFC 320 in Guadalajara, Mexico, September 13th, in what is probably going to be Alexander Volkanovski versus Yair Rodríguez. Whoa, the rematch that not a single person on the face of the fucking earth wants to see. That's what we're going to see in Mexico. So we got to talk about that because obviously that's the big news. It's got everybody talking. And, everyone's talking about, Alexander Volkanovski and, he's got to rematch Yair and nobody wants to see that fight. But the bigger story is the fact that Movsar Evloev, the true number one contender, a guy that is just a serious problem in the division, who has earned, not deserved because everyone deserves something these days, he has earned a shot at the featherweight title. It's a fresh matchup with Alexander Volkanovski. It's right there to be booked by the UFC. And don't worry, what we've seen from the UFC these days, man, they are going to fumble it. And you see in the bottom here, the Bozos. Dana White and his three Bozos. We're going to talk about them in this video. And then I waited to make this because I just knew. I absolutely knew it. We're going to talk about Ali in this video, the manager, because guess what? Surprise, surprise, he manages Movsar Evloev and Aaron Pico, who now is going to be fighting Movsar Evloev. In his debut, he is going to be fighting the number 4 ranked Movsar Evloev, who should be fighting for a title shot. They're going to be fighting in a 5-round co-main event, which, yeah, it's a badass fight, but it shouldn't be happening. It should not be happening. Why do these guys just get to come into the UFC, fight a top 5 guy? It's getting absolutely ridiculous, out of hand by the UFC. We have a lot to discuss, and you sick people out there like when my blood pressure goes through the roof. You like when I rant. You like all those different things. Well, guess what? You got it coming, man, because I'm about to go the fuck off, all right? I waited to make this video because I smelled it. I just knew when we got the news of Volkanovski Yair that was what was going to be booked based off of the tweets that we're going to go over from Movsar. I knew, man, that this matchup was going to come back up. Remember the rumblings? I made a video about it a while back. Evloev versus Pico. And I was like, the UFC's trying to get Movsar to lose, man. They are, because Aaron Pico, that's a hard-ass fight. It's a very hard fight, and a lot of people don't even know who Aaron Pico is. He's not some old retired guy that's coming over from Bellator or PFL to compete in the UFC. This is a very, very dangerous fight for Movsar. I still think Movsar wins, but it's still a very dangerous fight, and it shouldn't even be happening. But this was originally booked. It was supposed to be in the damn Apex. I mean, how disrespectful. Now it's going to be a 5-round co-main event in Abu Dhabi, and I just knew that they were going to rebook this. I just knew it. I knew when we saw that the first time around that was not the end of that fight. I just knew it. I absolutely knew it. So we got a lot to discuss. Let's jump into it, starting with what I was just saying in the beginning. I thought that we had seen it all. I thought that we had seen it all, man, because these are just some of the fights that came to mind of, recent undeserved title shots where we have O'Malley jumping back in there against Merab. And really, in comparison to this, I mean, that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing, right? The Chito Vera one, that was awful, right? That was all about business because Chito had the one fluke win over Sean O'Malley when he hit the perennial nerve. I mean, that was a complete ass whooping for 5 rounds in Miami, which that was a great card, by the way. And then we had Alex Pineda versus the number 8 Khalil Roundtree, and the UFC's like, whoa, Roundtree's on a 5-fight win streak or whatever. How can you dislike this fight? It's a badass matchup. Like, we all knew. No one was arguing that it was going to be a fun fight, right? It was going to be a straight kickboxing fight. That shouldn't have been happening. We had Magomed Ankalaev sitting right there, and the UFC is just acting like he doesn't exist, right? So again, just the bullshit. And then Sean Strickland getting a rematch in February right after going out there playing patty cake with Paulo Costa for 25 minutes, doing the bare fucking minimum to get a rematch against DDP when we had Khamzat just steamroll Robert Whittaker. I don't even know what to say. I'm just so happy that Khamzat versus DDP is finally happening because it could have been fumbled. It could have been fumbled. And, this is what the UFC is starting to do. They're fumbling around. And they're like, they're like fumbling. They got the hot thing in their hand and they're dropping it. And it's like, why do they keep not booking the right things at the right time? Why are they not doing the right thing and booking the number one contenders that are actually very intriguing matchups for the champions? Like I had been up here saying, Pineda versus Ankalaev, that's going to be an intriguing fight, man. Movsar versus Volk, that is such an interesting fight. Such an interesting fight. But so we feel like we saw it all. We haven't seen shit because this is by far the most undeserved title shot in UFC history, right? I know that there's some other ones out there where guys take these long layoffs and the UFC doesn't know what to do, so they just kind of hand them out like candy on Halloween. This one with Yair, it's as bad as it gets, man. It's absolutely as bad as it gets. And look, Dana White and the three bozos, right? Like I said before, I'm starting to question really what's going on behind the scenes because Dana White, it seems to me like someone's got their hand shoved so far up his ass and he's just a puppet at this point. These guys, we all know Hunter Campbell, he'll fly on a plane, he'll go meet up with these guys, try to gaslight them, smooth talk them, play the corporate angle and just basically carry out the dirty mission that the UFC has. That's when he shows up. Hunter Campbell's not showing up because everyone's all happy about the fight that's about to be booked. They send him to kind of smooth everything over and try to gaslight people like they did to Aljamain Sterling to get him to take a Sean O'Malley fight on a very, very quick turnaround after beating Henry Cejudo because they wanted Sean O'Malley to win. That's why Hunter Campbell's there. Hunter doesn't show up because it's like, oh yay, Hunter's here, woohoo, let's all party and have some fun. No, that's not why he shows up. Right now we got Mick Maynard who just sits in the back. What's he even doing? Sean Shelby. What are these guys doing? What are they doing? They're supposed to be the trusted matchmakers. They're supposed to be the ones that are booking the right matchups and, having this sport roll forward. And it just seems like we are going backwards with the matchmaking. We're going backwards with the matchmaking. They almost fumbled Adesanya versus Duplessis. We have Diego Lopez versus Yair right at the edge of our fingertips. They do nothing but fumble the fights when they're supposed to happen right now. That's the way it seems. That's the way it seems. So these guys, man, until further notice, it's Dana White and the three bozos. That's kind of just what I'm rolling with. Because what the hell are they doing? Is it them making these decisions? Is there somebody else behind the scenes? Because we all know about the shenanigans going on behind the scenes with the UFC and really who's probably in charge here. But these guys are still to blame because they're still the matchmakers. We see some good matchmaking on these Apex cards, right? I know that they're not huge names. We see some fun fights. But when it comes to these title shots and stuff, what are we doing? What are we doing, right? So just wanted to discuss that. But this right here, it's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful, right? Just looking at this makes me sick, man. It makes me sick because how in the world, and they have Yair at number 2 on here. He's not number 2. He's not number 2. Movsar Evloev is higher ranked than Yair Rodríguez. Movsar Evloev is undefeated. He is nobody's beaten him. He's been on an absolute tear since he's been in the UFC. He's beaten Dan Ige, beaten Diego Lopez, beaten Arnold Allen, which again was a close fight, beat Aljamain Sterling, which was a close fight. He's been in some very action-packed fights. He has earned a title shot, man. Just looking at this pisses me off. It pisses me off because then on the other hand, while Movsar should be getting the shot, we have a 37-year-old Volkanovski just won the title again. Every fight moving forward for guys, you hear me talk about this with Islam, with Ilya, with Volkanovski, with these big names and guys that might not be around for forever, especially Volk who's getting up there in age. It is so important to not waste fights. Do not waste pointless matchups for nothing. You might say, Jake, well, it's not pointless because they're going to Mexico, Guadalajara, so of course they want Yair Rodríguez to headline. Why do you need Yair to headline? I don't care where the fights are. Why can't we just have the best possible fights available? I don't understand that. And then the co-main event, you could have just had Yair versus Lopez in a 5-round title eliminator or something. Why? I just don't understand, man. And it's not like Yair is some huge star. People act like he's like walking around and know he wears the shades and he puts on the fancy clothes and this and that. And look, don't get me wrong. I like watching Yair fight. He's got a fun style and all these things. But come on, man. How are you going to throw him into a title shot here? We've already seen this fight. We know how this plays out. Sure, Yair could land a head kick or, catch Volk in a submission, which that's not likely at all. But it's more likely that he lands some sort of flying knee or a dynamic, kick of some kind. But outside of that, Volkanovski dominates him. Yair got curled up into a ball and got finished by Volkanovski at International Fight Week. And that was only a few fights ago because, by the way, Yair's incredibly inactive. He's been very inactive, actually. This is disgraceful, man. Then we got Movsar Evloev out here. This is what he says, right? At Alexander Volkanovski, thank you, champ, for trying to fight me. I will fight in July, and you fight in September. Hopefully we both win, and we can meet in December. So again, props to Movsar Evloev for taking a fight, right? Wanting to be active. And he just has this mentality, like you can see here. If you are a UFC fighter and believe you are the best in the world, then you have fight every fight they throw at you. No risk, no reward. See you guys in July. It's on #Abu Dhabi. Now, it's going to be a 5-rounder. We're going to get to that, and we'll break down the Pico fight, and I'll talk about that in a little bit here. But I love that Movsar Evloev has this mentality. We already knew that about this guy. If you know anything about Movsar, he's going to fight anybody, anytime, any place. He's going to do whatever it takes. He's clearly showing that by continuing to not wait on the sidelines, because we've seen the UFC not reward fighters for sitting on the sideline. So I'm happy that he's staying active, because I do want to see him back in there and compete. But I was hell-bent on the fact, do not fight Aaron Pico. Whenever they were trying to do that, back at the Apex, I'm like, wait for your title shot. Because Volkanovski's, he just beat Diego Lopez, or even if Lopez won, you were probably going to be next in line. But thinking about it, they probably said, you know what, Yair, we're going to give you Patricio Pitbull, who's this legend of Bellator. He's a little bit maybe past his prime. Well, not maybe. He is past his prime at this point. You go out there and basically embarrass this guy, make the UFC look good, put the PFL and Bellator down, man, really shove it up their ass. We'll give you a title shot. Even though, you've went out there and dropped a couple eggs, we'll throw you right back into a title shot. And then we have a true number one contender here in Movsar Evloev, who's going to get skipped. He's going to have to wait, and he's going to get skipped. And I got news for you. This is going to be bad, man. It's going to be bad. And the reason you might, Jake, you're being so negative. No, I'm not, because I see the writing on the wall. I see it. Look, we've seen this. And I don't want to hear another goddamn thing about Dagestani privilege, Muslim fighter privilege. I don't want to hear another thing about it. Islam had to go through the ringer. Habib had to go through the ringer. We have guys that have had to go, Ankalaev, Bilal Muhammad. We even have a guy like Merab Dvalishvili who had to go, through an murderer's row, basically, had to go on a crazy streak before he got his shot, right? I know that Merab's not from Dagestan, he's not Muslim. I'm just saying, we've seen fighters. Everyone talks about, oh, he's Muslim, so he got the shot. Oh, he's from Dagestan, so he got the shot. And oh, this and that. The privilege. What is the privilege? Where's the privilege? I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it, man. This is ridiculous. If anything, what? I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing about it. This is ridiculous. He should be fighting for the title. He should be fighting Alexander Volkanovski. That's the fight to make. And by the way, it's a way more, newsflash, that's way better of a fight than the Yair rematch. Volk versus Movsar is an entertaining fight. It is an exciting fight. I don't understand how anyone could say it's not entertaining. Movsar, yeah, I understand how people would say he doesn't really finish anybody. It's hard to argue that, right? His finishing ability in the UFC has not been what it has been prior to the UFC. I can't fight you on that. But what I can fight you on is, while they are going to decisions, they're entertaining fights. The Aljamain Sterling fight, that was one of the best fights of the year. In terms of stylistically, the scrambles, it was a great fight. The Arnold Allen fight was crazy. Right, so this guy's been in some fun fights. Even the Diego Lopez, even though Diego took it on short notice, that fight was wild. He's been in some wild fights, man. Him and Volk, I don't think he controls Volk for 25 minutes, do you? No. So he's probably going to be forced to strike with Volkanovski. He's got underrated striking, man. Like, Movsar, I like that he's doing this to stay active, but this is ridiculous. We've seen the UFC do this. They're going to give him the runaround. I've been saying it the whole time. I knew it the minute they originally booked the Pico fight, or those rumors started. I'm like, this is going to be bad. And the reason it's going to be bad is because while Movsar is going to fight this fight, say Yair beats Volkanovski on the chance that happens, because there's still a chance, right? Volk's getting a little bit older. He's slowing down a little bit. Say that happens, or even say Volkanovski wins. What happens if Jean Silva in his next fight, he gets a KO against a top opponent in the division? You don't think that they're not going to give Jean Silva the title shot over Movsar? They're going to be like, Silva's the big name. He's a stud. They're going to give him the shot. Lerone Murphy, he goes out there and puts on an impressive win. You don't think they're going to try to slide him in there? If Diego Lopez goes out there and gets some crazy KO and Yair wins, you don't think that they're going to try to be like, oh, well, there's beef here. Dude, there are numerous ways for the UFC to screw over Movsar, man. This isn't over. They're going to continue to try and do this. They're going to continue to try and do it, man. And I don't want to hear another thing about these privileges. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm sick and tired of hearing it, man, because clearly this dude, they're giving him the runaround. They're shutting him down. This is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And then to me, this is what's really weird, right? Ali Abdulaziz, he's the manager of both Movsar Evloev and Aaron Pico. You know, when he goes on Submission Radio, he says there's no other rightful contender they can't even spell his name right here. Come on, man. The disrespect is probably just a typo, but the Movsar doesn't even exist. I think it's unfair. I think it's unjust. Okay, and yeah, it is, right? He's the true number one contender, just like Ankalaev, and I'm always an advocate for him, man. If there's a guy like Merab who's sitting there in the division, a guy like Bilal, people that are running through the weight class, you're putting them in there against these different contenders, and you're like, we're going to need to see some more because your fighting style's not exciting, or whatever it is. You don't have a personality, whatever the UFC wants to say. And you go out there and you keep knocking them down. You get your shot, man. When you are the number one guy, when you are the top dog that has clearly put himself in position, book the damn fight. That's the fight that should happen. It's absolutely the fight that should happen. We should have never have seen O'Malley versus Vera. It should have been O'Malley versus Merab. But oh no, we need to get Sean O'Malley a cherry-pick title defense. We understand how this works. They were keeping Pereira away from Ankalaev as long as they could because they knew what was going to happen. They knew Ankalaev was going to beat him. Right? Now we got Pereira out there. Seems like he's trying to duck the rematch. So the UFC tries to strategically avoid these things. But to me, this is weird, right? Because Ali's saying this kind of stuff, and I'm like, why is it that all of these clients that he's having, they keep getting put in these positions to where they're getting skipped for title shots? And I know that it's probably, the UFC is the one that makes these decisions. But then you're having Movsar not just fight some other contender. It's not like he's fighting Lerone Murphy or Jean Silva or Diego Lopez again or something like that. You're fighting a guy who's never fought in the UFC who's also a client under the same manager. That's weird. Is that not weird to you? It's weird to me. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't understand it. Why is Movsar a guy who could be fighting for the title fighting an unranked guy who wasn't even in the organization? I don't get it. I don't get it, man. It's weird to me. It's weird, right? I just wanted to bring that up. But, so here's what we're looking at in terms of who should be fighting for the title. Okay, Yair, over his last 4 fights, he is 1-3. He got destroyed by Volkanovski in 2023. That fight was not even close. He got punked. He got taken down. He got beaten up by Volkanovski. It wasn't even close. And he beat a 37-year-old debuting Patricio Pitbull who had not fought in the UFC. Now, I will say this. A win over Patricio Pitbull, it's still impressive, but Patricio, we clearly have seen he slowed down. He's not the same guy as he was back in his prime in Bellator. He's coming over to the UFC a little bit late, but I still thought that Patricio was going to be a tougher fight than what he was for Yair Rodríguez. So it's not like super impressive, but I still thought that it was somewhat impressive. You're 1-3 in your last 4, and you're getting a title shot over a guy in Movsar who's 9-0 in the UFC, has wins over Diego Lopez, Arnold Allen, Aljamain Sterling, and Dan Ige, and he's not getting a title shot. They said, nah, we haven't seen enough. We need you to fight a guy who hasn't even fought in the organization yet. And there's no guarantee. Is there a guarantee that he's going to fight for the title if he beats Pico? You see what I'm saying? There's traps, man. The UFC knows what they're doing. There's traps. It's what they were doing with Ankalaev. There is traps, man. There's trap doors everywhere. You heard what I said before. If you've been watching, stay in this long to watch the video, which I appreciate it if you are, like and subscribe. But they have these multiple avenues to where if Yair and Volk, no matter who wins, if Jean Silva gets a win, if Lopez gets a win, and depending, Lerone Murphy and how these things kind of unfold, I just see it, man. I see the excuses starting to pile up for them, finding reasons to skip Movsar Evloev. I hope it doesn't happen. I'm just saying, I just see it now. I can smell it a mile away. And look, here's the bottom line, man. Yair is overrated. He's flat out overrated. And listen, I am not talking about his fighting style. I enjoy watching Yair Rodríguez fight. I don't think that you can say that you don't like watching him fight. He's super talented. He's very flashy, very dynamic, and he has a very fun style, and he's very entertaining. But he's overrated. He's absolutely overrated. Whenever he gets to the top of the heap in the division, he can compete with those guys, but he doesn't beat them. He doesn't beat him. Who cares that he beat Josh Emmett? Who cares? Yeah, he submitted him. That's still pretty impressive, right, for the interim title that had made no sense to be on the line, right? They just wanted Yair to get a belt. So, this is what it's been over his past few fights. He got destroyed by Alexander Volkanovski, got beaten up on the feet, got taken down, curled up into a ball, and finished. He got taken down by Brian Ortega and got choked out, got submitted. And then he went out there and picked apart a slow, short, little fella in Patricio Pitbull. That's what Yair has been up to get this title shot that he's about to have. And I don't want to hear about, he finished Brian Ortega. That wasn't a finish. That wasn't a finish. It was an injury in terms of the shoulder, in terms of Brian Ortega. That's why they rebooked the fight. And then they rebooked it. Yeah, we've seen that Brian Ortega, look how he got destroyed by Diego Lopez. And I know that Ortega has outstanding submission abilities. He's great on the ground, decent on the feet. But Yair, he was landing some good shots. But come on, man. He got subbed. He got subbed by Ortega. He got subbed by him. And then here we are, right? Movsar's so boring, dude. And like I said, in terms of going to a decision, if you don't like fighters that go to a decision, whatever. Movsar has not had a finish in the UFC. I understand that, but he's been in some very entertaining fights, man. He's been in some very entertaining fights. And what I have up here, the last time Yair Rodríguez, for all of you people out there saying Yair is so much more entertaining than Movsar, and when it comes to the entertainment factor, he clearly has the edge over Movsar. You're fucking wrong. You're dead wrong, man. The last time Yair had a finish that wasn't the Brian Ortega injury to the shoulder was against Chan Sung Jung back in 2018, to where he landed that, which was, it was a crazy knockout, that crazy little dip under, elbow in the final second of the fight that he was losing to Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie, back in 2018. So he was 1 second away from not having a finish. That is the last time, a knockout, I should say, right? Because we know what he did to Josh Emmett. So yes, we get that with Josh Emmett. But to say that this guy's so much more entertaining than Movsar, you're wrong. Yeah, I know he's flashy on the feet and this and that, but in terms of the scraps that they've been in, Movsar's been in some great fights. He's been in some fun back and forths like Arnold Allen, the scrambles with Aljamain Sterling, the crazy scrambles with Diego Lopez. And by the way, Movsar is very underrated on the feet, man. He's very underrated on the feet. So these people out there saying, whoa, the excitement factor. Yeah, he's more flashy for sure. But in terms of the exciting scraps that they've been in, give me a break. Give me a break. So everybody's that's out here acting like Yair's going out there starching everybody and that's why he's getting this title shot, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. And that leads us to this, okay? Here's the fight that's booked. We have Movsar Evloev versus Aaron Pico. And, I kind of was talking about this already and kind of gave my initial thoughts when we heard the rumors that this was going to be getting booked a while ago at the Apex. And look, if you don't know who Aaron Pico is, the way that I describe him is a more technical and calm and controlled version of Michael Chandler. He's like what Michael Chandler could be if he knew how to contain his aggression, if he knew how to fight more technically in the fight. That is kind of what Aaron Pico is. He's a very strong individual. He has a very good wrestling background, devastating power in his hands. He's very explosive, and he is a threat in terms of finishing the fight. He could absolutely go in there and knock out just about anybody in this weight class. Now, we've seen these guys come over from PFL Bellator. They come in, they make their debuts, and other than the Patricio Pitbull one where he got beat up by Yair Rodríguez, what have we seen? We saw Michael Chandler come over, knock out Dan Hooker. We saw MVP come over, completely embarrass Kevin Holland. We've seen these guys come over, make their debuts, and do very, very well. So it's not to say that Pico can't come into this fight and do very well, because I do believe that Movsar Evloev is the better MMA grappler than Aaron Pico, but you never know, man. A fight is a fight, and it just seems like, to me, this is what I said before. It feels like the UFC picks somebody out that they think could come in and stop Movsar Evloev. Someone that has a good wrestling background, someone that is physically strong, someone that is explosive to where if they can stop the takedowns, they could knock Movsar out. And if you were going to build somebody, it looks like an Aaron Pico, man. It looks like an Aaron Pico. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't think that Aaron has fought somebody of the caliber of Movsar Evloev, but he is a very game opponent. He's a very game opponent, and I've watched a lot of Aaron Pico film, man, and I'm telling you, the guy is very dangerous. So people saying that Movsar is just going to run him over, I don't think so. I don't think so. And just be honest, when has Movsar over his past few fights just completely mowed somebody over? He's been in some entertaining fights, but he hasn't mowed anybody over. And if you think he's going to go in there and just bully around Aaron Pico, who he's not over the hill, He's a guy that's still got it, man, and he's dangerous, and I don't think that he beats Movsar. I think Movsar wins this fight. I would love to see him get a finish here because he's got 5 rounds to work with. This is going to be a 5-round co-main event on the Abu Dhabi card. I think Movsar finds a finish, man. I really think he does, and I hope that he does. I think he can mix in the takedowns. He's got underrated striking on the feet. I think that Aaron Pico will underestimate his striking, get clipped by a shot. He will start to slow down as the fight plays out, and I think Movsar Evloev can maybe land a shot, take him down, and beat him up with some ground and pound, get the ref to step in and stop the fight, because I can't do anything but stress to you, you should be rooting for Movsar Evloev. You just should, man, because whether you're a fan of him or not, in terms of the standard that the UFC is setting, in terms of giving out title shots, like I said, it's like Halloween. They're just handing it out like it's candy. You don't have to do anything to actually earn a title shot anymore. They just skip over true number 1 contenders. They do. And they're acting like we don't have an undefeated guy who's been running through, well, not like running through, but he's been getting the job done. And he's been in there against good competition. The Aljamain Sterling win, that's a great win. It's a great win. Sterling's a former champion down at bantamweight, defended the belt a few times, comes up, dominates Calvin Kattar at UFC 300, goes out there and beats him, right? I mean, come on, man. Come on, dude. Seriously? And we're not going to give this guy a title shot? We've seen this game before. They're going to give him the runaround. And then what they do is they postpone it, and then they have these other fun contenders. They try to give them these good matchups, so that way if they win, they have the excuse to skip Movsar. That's what's going to happen. I hope it doesn't, but I fear that it's going to happen, and it leads us to this, man. Movsar Evloev, I believe I've said this, that he will be the champion at some point in the featherweight division. The guy is a very, very elite level fighter, man. And I know that he hasn't been running away with all these decisions that he's been winning, but he's still entertaining, man. He could go toe to toe with anybody in this weight class. And that's why I said before, him versus Volkanovski is such an intriguing fight, dude. Such an intriguing fight, because I think that he's not just going to bully around Volkanovski with the grappling. He's not just going to go in there and mow him over in terms of the grappling, right? And when it comes to the striking on the feet, I don't think he's as good as Volk, right? So it turns into this crazy, gritty scrap between the two to where we would just see 2 dogs going at it. And that is what happens when you have a true number 1 contender and a very good champion like Volkanovski. Those are the type of fights that you get. Look what happened when we saw Alex Pineda versus Magomed Ankalaev. It was a strategic fight. It had all the X's and O's to it. It was a, super tactical. When we saw Merab and O'Malley, while it wasn't, the most entertaining, it was still pretty close. And it had, the styles when they clashed. That is what we need, man. That's what we need. And there's a time and a place for these fun fights. And if, there was another guy that was on a tear and he was right there and, with Movsar, and he had beaten, a bunch of ranked dudes, and he was right there and he was finishing people and all those kinds of things, then I could understand how it's like a pickle between who do we give the title shot to, but then just make them fight, and then whoever wins gets the title shot, right? This is craziness, man. It's craziness. The UFC, they're doing some horrible things, man, with the way that they're booking these title fights. And I get it. They're going to Mexico. They want a Mexican champion so bad. They want to, when they go to these different countries, they want to cater. Like when they go to the UK, they want Aspinall to headline. I get it. But I feel like we don't always have to do that. I feel like we don't always have to do that. Like in the US, right, we had for, UFC 313. Where was that? That was in Vegas. We had Ankalaev and we had Alex Pineda headlining. Right? And I know that we're limited on American champions right now, but you get the point. Like that, to me, it's like you could have fighters that are going to be fighting in their hometowns or home countries or whatever on those cards for sure. But when we have a title on the line, we can't just give an undeserved title shot just because, it's in Mexico and we want Yair here. You could have just done Yair versus Diego Lopez in a 5-round co-main event and been like the winner gets a title shot or something. And then you could have did Movsar versus Volk as the main event. Right? Fight fans are going to show up regardless, man. I don't think being like, Yair in the title, like I'm sure, of course, it gets people a little more amped, in Mexico and in Guadalajara and all that. And I get it from that standpoint what the UFC is looking at. But come on, man. You're setting a bad precedent. You are. And the better fight is Movsar versus Volkanovski. So as a fight fan, I would just be like, man, I'm showing up to an event. I just want to see the best fight that we can make. And that is not Volkanovski versus Yair. And then if Yair goes out there and beats Volk, like, he's beating an older Volkanovski, man. He just is. He is. And at this particular moment, because we saw the fight before. We saw the fight before. We saw Volk beat him up. And of course, Yair could go out there and land a shot or whatever. And then if Movsar eventually gets the chance to fight Volkanovski, he's going to be even older. And then people are going to discredit Movsar and be like, he beat an older Volk. I don't know, man. I don't understand the UFC. I don't understand what they're doing. I just don't get it. But if you enjoyed this video, please like, let me know what you think down in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. I would appreciate it. See you next time.